Hi guys, it's me Nalthazar, or once again you can just call me Michael, and welcome to episode 2 of the Planeswalker Showcase series. Episode 2 is going to be on Jace, Unraveler of Secrets, who, as many of you guys know, is one of my favorite and most used Planeswalkers in the game, in spite being a monocolored Planeswalker, and is one of the Planeswalkers that I outlined in my Getting Started video. So I thought that Jace would be a good Planeswalker to have as the second episode Planeswalker. So taking a quick look at Jace, his health at 104 is on the lower end of the health spectrum. It's not bad, but it's not great. But where he really shines are in his mana bonuses and in his third ability. So Jace's mana bonuses are a total of +9, and that +5 to blue is particularly nice. And for the Unravel ability, create a support with whenever you draw a card, each of your creatures gets a permanent +4/+4 buff. So Jace is pretty easy to build around because there's a lot of blue common and uncommon removal options and a lot of blue common and uncommon draw extra card options. This game is very generous with card draw, so Jace very strongly benefits from that. His first ability and second ability are both useful abilities, but because you're trying to get that third ability out, you're really not going to be using them that often. The only situations where I really find myself using investigation or study is if I've already gotten Unravel out. So let's take a look at the beginner deck that I'm going to go with for Jace for this video. Now, because I suggested that you go for Origins in the beginner video, pretty much everything in this deck is from Origins with two exceptions. One is Dragon's Horde, and this is going to be a staple in this until it leaves Standard, and you can get this from just playing in events, so I don't view it as a mythic rarity as rarity goes. And I threw in Dimir Guildgate because unfortunately there aren't any blue-black gem converters in Origins. So this is just a common, and so I figured this really wouldn't be breaking the mold too much to throw in a common from another set. So let's take a look at what I'm going for here. Now the first thing is I want to make sure that I have things that are going to draw me cards, because I'm ultimately going to be trying to get Jace's third ability going, and so I need things to draw me cards. And so here we have a few options. The first one is Jesse and Thief. Now this card was my bread and butter when I first started the game. This one and Sigiled Starfish. So what this card does is whenever it deals combat damage to a Planeswalker, you draw a card. So every turn, you're drawing a bonus card, 2 cards a turn if you include the starter draw. Sigiled Starfish also says at the beginning of your turn, draw a card. So this, with the Jessian, are going to be drawing you 3 cards a turn. And so with that, if you've got your third ability down, each of them are going to be getting +12/+12 every turn permanently. The Scrapskin Drake is nice once you've got that third ability down, because you get a defender, well, I suppose a flying defender, right? So with reach, that's going to be able to block everything and not die. So it is able to hardwall a lot of your opponents, especially in PvE events. Anchored to the Aether is going to serve simultaneously as removal, and it's going to draw you a card, which is very nice. Now that really takes care of the things that are going to be drawing as cards. Next up on the board is what do we have for, Dragon's Horde draws us 2 cards. How could I forget? Is removal. Now removal is incredibly important, especially for a deck like this, because if you're trying to get to 21 loyalty to be able to win the match, you definitely want to make sure that you're alive for that long, so you need to have as many ways as possible to keep yourself in the game. Now this is a particularly useful Planeswalker and a particularly useful deck for a beginner for PvE events. So those coalition PvE events where your opponents are going to have hundreds of health, this is going to be an incredible option for you if you don't have a big collection. So Harbinger of the Tides is a very good card. It only costs 10 mana, and when it enters the battlefield, you get to bounce a creature and make it cost more mana. If you bounce a token, the token dies, but if you bounce a creature, it's going to be harder for them to bring it back. Now, unfortunately, in the Origins era, and a little bit in the earlier era of this game, they specified that if you bounce something, you can only bounce it if they have 5 or less cards in hand. And as we're going to be playing a control-y type of game, it's very likely that as the game goes, they're going to have more than 5 cards in their hand. So that bit is a little bit of a bummer. And so cards like Harbinger of the Tides and Anchor to the Aether haven't aged as well as some of the other cards that we're going to be using. But let's keep going. Turn to Frog is a staple for a lot of events, especially for get X number of creature kills in an objective. It destroys a creature and turns it into a 1/1 blue frog. So very useful if your opponent brings down a big baddie, kill it, you get a frog. They get a frog, but a 1/1 is not nearly as deadly as something like Zodek or some horror. Displacement Wave, this gives us non-targeted removal, and it's going to get rid of all creatures. So if your opponent has a lot of creatures down, it's going to get rid of all of them. If they bring down something like Gaia's Revenge, it's going to get rid of it. And it doesn't have to worry about the 5 cards in hand thing. So if the opponent has 5 cards, more than 5 cards in hand, it's going to destroy all their creatures. It's very useful. I very much so like board wipes. And then the last card that we have is Claustrophobia. This is an amazing card. It has not aged as well just because there are other cards that do the exact same thing for less mana. But nonetheless, when you don't have those other cards, this is an amazing card to have in your collection and is a great card to use with Jace. So let's go ahead, use this deck, throw it on into the training grounds. Once again, we're going to be up against other platinum opponents that have access to all of the mythics, masterpieces, rares from all the different sets at their disposal. So we're going to be going up against some pretty nasty baddies. Now, here you're actually going to see me go ahead and get the Sigiled Starfish down first because I want to have all the card draw and all the land. We have some excellent matches here for Jace, so we're going to go ahead and just start making those blue matches. Blue matches are your friend. They have the largest of the mana bonuses for you. And then following the blue matches, you're obviously going to be going for the black matches. Now, on the downside for us, he's getting a lot of bonus matches. On the plus side for us, the card he chose to use is Galloping Lizrog, which isn't super powerful, but it tells us that he's probably running an Adapt deck. Now here, I'm actually going to go ahead, charge up Harbinger of the Tides. You'll see that I'm disabling both it and Displacement Wave. I do not actually want to use either of them at this precise moment. Now, matching. How are you going to want to match your gems when you're playing a control deck in Puzzle Quest? You want to match for your own gems, and you also definitely want to match to block out things for your opponent. So here, I'm going to be making a match that's going to be blocking out my opponent's mana gains a little bit. Now, unfortunately, he's also going to be getting access to the green ones here, and because this is Samut, he's going to be able to buff that lizard up and hit pretty hard. So at this stage, we're drawing a lot of cards, we're getting a lot of excess. We definitely do not need a second Jezian Thief. I'm going to actually be playing the Harbinger here. I'm playing the Harbinger here because I don't exactly want to get hit for a ton of extra damage. And then we're going to start charging up Dragon's Horde. Dragon's Horde is critical because it's going to be giving us gem conversion, and the gem conversion is ultimately going to not only give us mana, regular mana, but it's also going to be giving us loyalty mana, and that's really important. So I'm actually going to be tossing Anchor to the Aether here because I like Turn to Frog as an option a little bit more. You'll see that I'm going to be prioritizing the Guild Gate before continuing with the Dragon's Horde, and that's just because I have a 6 mana match here, which means that I can start converting next turn instead of having to potentially wait even more turns for the conversion. Now, yes, that was a very lucky cascade, so I would have been able to get the Dragon's Horde down, but it wasn't a guarantee. So I like to go with the guaranteed plays when I can. I'm just going to keep tossing the things that I don't need here because I'm drawing so many cards, I don't need to hold on to all that stuff. Now, here I've got either the option to make a black match on the right or the blue match. I'm going for the blue one just in case I can take that double green, which it cascaded in, and I was able to take the double green away from Samut. So just giving you a little bit of how is it that I'm thinking of playing my matches. Now, unfortunately, Oh, well, he chose not to go for the good play, which, shame on him. Now that we have both the Guild Gate down and we have the Dragon's Horde down, we're going to be getting a lot of gem conversion. I don't want the Dragon's Horde to pop, so I don't want it to break here. And so I'm actually going to go ahead and start charging things up in my hand. I'm going to charge up another Dragon's Horde so I can get that down, and I'm going to start charging up the Drake so I can get that guy down too. Now, I do see that Samut has her first ability available. She's got the frog down, so I know that I'm going to be getting hit for 12 next turn by the frog. That's really not too big of a deal. We're at 18 out of 21, so with one Planeswalker match or with one more triple match, we're going to be able to get Jace's third ability, Ultimate, down. If things are looking too dicey, we can always Displacement Wave because we now have enough mana to drop that down. So the deck is actually in very good shape at this point. So we'll see what else Samut wants to do, but my guess is that at this stage in the match, she's not going to have too many options to stop us unless she uses a support removal card on the turn after we drop Jace's third. As a reminder, Jace's third is Unravel. It's going to give us the support that makes it so whenever we draw a card, each creature gets +4/+4. Now, because we're at 20, we're going to be getting that support down next turn. So I'm going to drop another Dragon's Horde. I'm actually going to be boosting up that Anchor to the Aether here. Although, unfortunately, as I say that, I see that my opponent has 6 cards in hand, so I won't be able to use it, so I'm just going to go ahead and get the Drake going instead. Now, one of the really nice things about using the Jessian Thief in this deck is that the Jessian Thief draws you that extra card after she attacks. And part of why that's so nice is that it gives you the option for when you drop the Drake to get that +4 boost that turn. Now, there aren't too many common and uncommon card draw cards that are really powerful at this stage, but as you develop your collection, you'll see that you're going to get more of them, and so you can find more and more ways to make this deck stronger. Now, I'm actually going to be getting rid of the Turd to Frog there. That's just because I'm tapping on this blue gem on the top left, so you'll see that the 8 shielded support here on the bottom is pinging. That's Dragon's Horde. That's going to be drawing me 2 extra cards, so that's going to start buffing all the creatures, and we want that. So, unfortunately, we are going to be sacrificing the Harbinger here. I know that the Harbinger has a boost of +8/+8, so I'm going to be sacrificing a 12/12. And you might be wondering, why are you sacrificing the 12/12? Well, I'm sacrificing the 12/12 because I want to boost up the Scrapskin Drake. So as this defender gets stronger, the opponent's options for counterplay start to go away because it's just going to start to have a body that's too big for the opponent to kill with creatures. They're going to have removal themselves. Now, I'm pinging that green one on the bottom left just because I want to go ahead and draw more cards because that's going to be converting into more damage. And that really should just be a wrap given that I've already got the third ability down. So here you'll see that this is a deck composed of just Origins cards that are largely easy to get, and we've got a very significant board presence. We were able to take down the Samut pretty easily, and you'll find that you can do this pretty easily with just about any opponent. There will be games where you lose life like this one, so we did lose some chunks of life, but for the most part, you can get away with a lot using this deck. You have a lot of card draw, so you'll have any card that you need at your disposal at pretty much any time. So it's pretty awesome. Now, if you wanted to see what Jace looks like when you have a little bit better of a collection, I'm going to go ahead and use the Jace deck that I throw into most events. Now, I could tweak this little Jace deck around, but I happen to love how this particular version of the deck works. You will see that there is only one card this time that's in both decks, and that's Dragon's Horde. I love the card. Everything else is different. So unfortunately, Blue Sun Zenith is such a strong card that there's really no reason to not use it in any blue deck right now in Standard. For Legacy, I happen to think that Omniscience is better, but for Standard, Blue Suns is ridiculous. So this is going to draw us 6 cards. When it's fully charged, it's going to give each of those cards 10 mana, and if we've got Unravel, that third ability down, and 3 of our creatures down, that's going to be 72 power that's going out just to the Blue Sun Zenith. So you get to pay 16 mana to do 72 damage and give 10 mana to the 6 cards you draw. It's crazy. Another crazy one is Storm the Vault. We're going to be getting a lot of supports down in this deck, and when it flips, it's going to convert X gems to blue, where X is the number of supports you control times 2. A lot of supports, so pretty easy to get that off. Now there's an incredible amount of gem conversion in the deck between Dragon's Horde, not the Krasis, Memorial to Genius, which converts 2 gems to blue and conveniently draws 2 cards when it blows up, and the Storm the Vault. In addition to that, we have a lot of removal at our disposal. So we have River's Rebuke. This is one of the few ways in blue to get rid of supports. I recognize that it's only non-land supports, but it gets rid of only your opponent's stuff. So unlike Displacement Wave from the previous deck, River's Rebuke is only going to get rid of your opponent's stuff, and it's going to get rid of supports on top of creatures. It's an unbelievably good card. There's In Bolas's Clutches. This is just an uncommon. I love this card. Unfortunately, at this present moment in time, it's not stealing creatures if you have 3. It used to steal one and it would just let you destroy it if you had 3, but right now you can only use it if you have 2 or fewer creatures. But nonetheless, you can steal your opponent's stuff and it's non-targeted, so if they have hexproof, you still get it. Hostage Taker is another one that's going to be stealing your opponent's creatures. This is really nice for achieving objectives where you need to cast a certain number of creatures, because you get a creature for casting Hostage Taker and you get a creature for stealing one. The last creature in the deck, well, I suppose there's the Djinn too. We've got the Hydroid Krasis. Hydroid Krasis is very good in Jace, in that Hydroid Krasis is one of the few cards that's going to give you life gain, which is really nice because blue doesn't have very many options to get life. And it will also give you the option to draw 6 cards. So you can play Hydroid Krasis if you've got it fully charged for 14 mana total, and you get that 72 damage bonus for drawing 6 cards with your third ability, on top of also getting a 7/7, so that's really 79 damage that you're getting that turn for dropping the Hydroid Krasis, and you're going to be gaining the 6 life. So Hydroid Krasis is an excellent card in Jace 2. And the final card is Djinn of Wishes, which is a 6/6, which isn't too big, but the 3 supports that it produces will all draw you cards when they get popped, and they also give you additional supports on the board with Storm the Vault. So with Storm the Vault and the Djinn and an attack, it's an automatic flipping of Storm the Vault. So let's go ahead, throw it into the training grounds. You'll get to see a little bit of what this is about. I really like this deck in objectives where you need to win in 10 rounds or fewer. It tends to be a very fast deck. So I'm hoping that I can show you guys just how fast this deck can be. Now, I'm looking at the starting match here, and I'm up against Elspeth. If you're not familiar with Elspeth, Elspeth is a white planeswalker with the largest single white mana bonus in the game. So while I traditionally want to just get rid of her white mana gem matches, I'm actually going to be going for that because I want to get my Memorial down this turn. The quicker that I get the Memorial down, the quicker I'm able to do good things for myself. Now, I'm actually going to throw away the second Djinn. I'm throwing away the second Djinn because the Hydroid Krasis is going to be coming down this turn and drawing me a bunch of cards, and I really want to draw into more gem conversion or a Blue Sun Zenith or removal of some sort. I suppose I didn't highlight the Mistcaller earlier on, and so especially with Elspeth dropping Divine Visitation, I'm going to go ahead and highlight Mistcaller for just a quick second. Mistcaller reads, when this creature is on the battlefield, whenever a token would enter the battlefield, exile it instead and draw a card. Now, I like to use this card in my deck even though I don't always run into tokens, because in this game, in Standard right now, and even in Legacy for that matter, tokens are incredibly strong. It's very easy to get 100 power out in tokens and with haste in one turn, and so this just gives me a way to get around that, and I don't have to worry about them, and it gives me additional card draw. Now, because my opponent played Divine Visitation, this makes it so that all of my opponent's tokens come in as 4/4 Flying Vigilances. It's a very scary card. I do not want to have to face that card, really. So I'm going to be prioritizing getting down the Mist Caller right now. I am going to be tossing the Djinn of Wishes here. I'm going to be holding down In Bolas's Clutches. That's a nice little reserve for if my opponent does indeed get some tokens down, I will be able to use In Bolas's Clutches and they will become mine instead. Now, my getting the Mist Caller down is really unfortunate for Elspeth. You can see by the two plays, Divine Visitation and Angelic Exaltation, that she is indeed going for a token deck. And so this really just sort of locks her down a little bit, which is too bad for her, but, you know, nice for me. And that's exactly why I run Mist Caller. You don't need it every single game. And so I know that there are people who will be like, I don't feel like I need to use it. But you never know when you're going to run into a deck like this. And as a result of that, you don't want to be in a position where you're just going to get completely whomped by not having the removal you need. Now here, I'm not going to be able to use the In Bolas's Clutches because I have 3 creatures. So you're going to see me toss it in just a minute. I'm actually going to be going for the Hostage Taker here. I'm going for the Hostage Taker just because Resplendent Angel gets really big and really scary really fast. I'm also only at 13, which means that I'm not as close to the third ability Unravel as I would like, even though I do have both Dragon's Horde and Memorial to Genius on the battlefield. So, you know what, actually I'm close enough to both of them. Let's go ahead and charge up Blue Suns so you can see just how quickly this deck can win. Now, the Resplendent Angel is going to be getting lifelink here, which means it's going to be buffing itself again when it attacks, but that's really not too big of a deal. Under normal circumstances, I would be playing for more control, so I would be a little bit more conservative with my approach, but in this case, I'm just winning quickly because it's the training grounds. Now, Blue Sun is fully charged. That's great. We love Blue Sun. It's way too powerful. So it's already been nerfed once, and unfortunately, I do think it probably should get another nerf again. It's really just that strong. I'm going to be getting rid of the Hostage Taker. I'm going to get rid of you. I'm going to get rid of you. I'm at 16, so let's just keep drawing cards here. So Blue Sun is really just that strong. Unfortunately, we did just pop that. We did not want to pop that at all. Now, Storm the Vault is one of the reasons why I did that, because with Storm the Vault out, you've effectively got like near infinite mana. And so regardless of what this angel does, I'm going to have way more mana than any person ever should. So I'm going to be popping the Djinn here, the Djinn Wish. I'm going to be throwing up River's Rebuke in case I can get that down. And so let's see what we get. We got a Blue Sun. Unfortunately, the Blue Sun is going to auto-cast with the full mana, but it's really not too big of a deal. You'll see that next turn we're going to be getting that third ability down, which is really nice. And so we're going to go ahead and also get the Vault transformation. And so Elspeth is going to be getting some mana here, but not a huge deal. Here's where you get to see busted Cascades, because busted. I'm actually going to be getting rid of this Hostage Taker. I've got this match here, which is the Dragon's Horde, and I've also got 2 Djinn Wishes that are going to be popping, so I'm going to be drawing 4 cards here to the 5 match on the bottom. And so let's go ahead, do that, draw our 4. And in drawing those 4, that's also going to be boosting all of the creatures a bunch. So you're going to see them all getting to a power that Elspeth just can't handle. Now in PvE events, you get these guys into the hundreds really easily. In PvP events, well, you can actually also get them into the hundreds pretty easily, to be honest. But that's if you're playing the deck seriously and optimally. In this case, I'm really not, so it's not a big deal. Elspeth is already dead, but nonetheless, because I'm a monster, I'm going to go ahead and make this triple blue match on the right to get the Hydroid Krasis down to gain more life, and to just make the creatures even bigger, just to give you an idea for how scary this deck really is. So with this, if you've been sleeping on Jace 2, if you're a person that has Jace 2 and you haven't used him recently, I would strongly advise that you give him another shot. especially with all of the blue gem conversion running in Standard right now. He's incredibly powerful. He's actually, in my opinion, one of the strongest Planeswalkers in the game because of his third ability. There aren't very many Planeswalkers that are able to buff your creatures this much. So if you look at the Mistcaller even, Mistcaller started out as a 3/3. It has 1 reinforcement, so that's 6/6, but nonetheless, it's at 54/54 right now because of Jace's third ability. And with the other cards in the deck, it synergizes very well. You've got a lot of control. You've got life gain. There really aren't very many ways to lose. For that matter, I think I have lost 1 game with Jace Unraveler of Secrets in the last year, and I have to have played well over 1,000 games with him. So that is Jace Unraveler of Secrets. As you guys can see, he's pretty strong. He's very useful for both beginners and for advanced players. So if you don't already have him, he's 295 mana crystals. It's going to be 80,000 mana runes to power up. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope to see you in the next episode.